Welcome to this episode of the Engineering Project Management Podcast, a podcast that's dedicated to helping project managers to sharpen their project management skills. I'm going to be your host today. My name is Matt Douglas with EMI, and in this episode of the Engineering Project Management Podcast, I'm going to be speaking with Erica Antoine. Now, Erica is a licensed professional engineer and also a project manager at Burns Engineering. And today, we're going to be talking about the challenges and also the advancements in zero emissions public transportation and how project management plays a crucial role in driving sustainability in transit projects. And with that, let's jump right into today's episode. All right, everybody, it is now time for our PM conversation of the week with Erica Antoine. Erica, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
That is great. That is great. So let's go ahead and get right into this right now. We want to know a little bit about you. We want to know about your career journey and what led you to specialize in public transit projects.
All right. So first and foremost, I'm a mom of two beautiful children and a wife to another fellow engineer. And I am a project manager at Burns Engineering. It's a national consulting firm that specializes in engineering solutions for mission critical facilities such as railroad and transit, aviation, and facilities and infrastructure. My journey. I started my career as a summer intern at the Philadelphia International Airport, where I was actually introduced to Burns Engineering. Over the last 2 decades, I've built my career at Burns, transitioning from that intern status to now managing rail and transit projects for agencies up and down the East Coast. My first project at Burns was for SEPTA, the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority. And since then, my career has been focused in rail and transit. This includes any sort of projects related to multimodal stations, so like both rail and bus and like trail, so biking and pedestrian, all connected. Rail yard improvements, so where they store the train sets. I've done some subway state of good repair improvement projects, upgrades to the vehicle maintenance facilities specific to zero-emission, and then even bus loops where passengers get in and on, off and on the vehicles.
All right, that's awesome. So if you don't mind me asking, how long did it take in your matriculation to go from an intern to a project manager, would you say? Just so that people can kind of get like a glimpse as to how long it really might take from just starting out their career to getting to the point where you are right now, where you're managing such large projects.
Sure. I would say I started managing projects maybe between 5 and 7 years out of college. And that was a function on taking on those leadership roles in the project. So interacting with the client, performing the public outreach presentations, being the go-to subject matter expert on my discipline, which is civil stormwater. And then it has evolved to the ability to write those proposals, manage staff and the man-hour allocations, partake in the business development parts of the project and the business, and really specific to zero emission, set the trends going forward of how we're going to approach this new technology in the transit industry.
Nice. So what has been one of the most challenging transit projects that you've worked on so far? And if you don't mind sharing, how did you overcome those challenges?
Sure. So I feel like every time someone asks me this question, I get awarded a new challenge to take on. Currently, I would classify that as the bus garage modernization project. So what they're doing is transitioning a century-old structure and infrastructure in a very hardened environment that is in operation 24/7 to transform it to something that has a vision that's more modern related to its infrastructure, its systems, and technology, while also still taking into consideration the significance of maybe historical architecture. And all of this is being performed while technology and codes are still advancing. So we're making assumptions, we're being very collaborative, we're being future forward to work on this project. Some of the challenges are attempting to future-proof without a ton of data available, particularly in our region. So a lot of times with relation to transitioning to the zero-emission, which is either battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell buses, we're using lessons learned from the West Coast. But that takes a whole nother realm of variables that aren't considered related to, in our region here in Philadelphia, the weather changes. So we're dealing with very hot environments during the summer, which can reduce your battery life, compounded with very cold weather winter months, which also impacts battery life. Then, as I noted, the technology and the equipment is advancing. So when I design something today, that piece of equipment may weigh 200 pounds and have a 5x5 footprint. But when the contractor is actually going to install it, the advancements are so quick that technology is evolving that it might be 150 pounds and in a 4x4 footprint. So having the ability to foresee and basically pivot for those revisions in the future is something that we need to consider when we're designing things. And then there's impacts to the facilities and infrastructure. So you're taking into consideration the power demand, some fire life safety, code compliance, all which are unique to the technical aspects. And then the other portion that I like about these types of projects are there are challenges associated with external factors. So you're taking into consideration, is funding available? What social impacts are there? What changes have there been to commuting habits, maybe with like COVID or generational differences? That we have to be very deliberate with decision making, particularly related to social and environmental justice, and understanding what the community and stakeholders need.
That sounds very, very complex. I mean, just the fact that you said that this bus station is 24/7 operation. And the fact that you're trying to retrofit this to be, retrofitted for the future as well. Well, I have so many questions, but I think that the next one that I really want to get into, I want to talk about zero emissions. And I mean, we're talking about batteries here. And I'm also from the Baltimore area. So I'm very understanding of what the weather is actually like in the Philadelphia area, obviously. Now, I know how cold affects batteries and how, the heat kind of sort of affects batteries. But would you say that there is, with it being more of like a consistent weather pattern over on the West Coast, say in like the California area, with it being warmer, do you think that actually preserves the battery life a little bit more? And also, I want to follow up with that question as far as asking about what kind of advancements in technology do you find to be the most exciting, especially within your field right now? I know that's a very loaded question, so take your time with it. I will relax now. I just have a lot of questions.
All right. So to answer your first question related to batteries, the way that we are pursuing this challenge here on the East Coast is to understand the battery life and to plan for different conditions. So we're doing modeling to understand the battery range for these vehicles. When we develop the specs, we're putting in a warranty to ensure that the battery is going to last the life cycle or will be replaced within that same funding source. And we're doing those pilots to actually understand. There's so many variables that go into the battery usage and the vehicle range. So while cold weather reduces the range of the battery, the hot weather doesn't allow the battery to charge as quickly because your equipment is overheating. Very similar to your cell phone. When it gets hot, it tells you it doesn't want to work. And then different factors, like if you're going up and down hills, if you're stopping and starting, if your operator likes to speed up and then slow down, all these different things impact the range. If you have to stop and take a break somewhere, or if you have twice the amount of passengers on the bus, all those variables impact your battery and your range that you are going. So the second part of your question related to advancements in technology, I am most excited about the technology advancements. So I think that there will be advancements related to battery density that will help the range of the battery go further. There are current concerns with the battery making process and recycling after it is utilized. So I think that process will get more environmentally friendly. I'm excited about smart infrastructure, so the ability for it to collect data and help us as engineers make decisions going forward on what assets we have, how long we use them, if they're overheating, if there's going to be an event that we need to be notified in advance of it. There's so many different things that as our industry grows and all this technology and data is available, that will really help us. In general, what I love about this is that it gives us as engineers the ability to think outside the box. We're taking a holistic approach that's future focused, and that really excites me. Compounded with I have a passion for the sustainability aspects, and that this is committed to carbon reduction and has a positive impact on our environment, the region, and the communities that are served by these transit agencies and these zero-emission vehicles.
Awesome. So then how do you approach project management for those complex transit projects to make sure that they reach your sustainability goals and your carbon emissions goals?
Well, truthfully, I think it goes back to the fundamentals of project management. We briefly touched on this, but taking a holistic approach. So one of the first steps is really understanding the client needs, understanding the impacts to the community and to the environment, considering those cultural shifts and how to be proactive with change management to really set the tone up front in the project that this is going to add benefit. So whatever concerns you have related to change, let's talk through them so we're all on an equal playing field. The next step after you've gathered that information is setting the vision and designing to that vision. So you're being future focused. You're taking into consideration flexibility, scalability, resiliency, and you're setting those goals that are specific and measurable. I honestly think that is like the key to any successful project, is having a vision and goal that you can frequently refer back to ensure you're on track. Now, in complex projects, I will be completely honest and share that on occasion, those visions and goals sometimes change, particularly in zero emission, because you're learning new things. Things are evolving. So having the flexibility to evolve with those changes, I think, is really key. Other things that help with a successful project, particularly being complex, is aligning the team that's working together. So that takes into consideration your owner, your stakeholder, the engineers, the designers, the architects, the contractor, and even the community. And then when you're evaluating the project from start to finish, you're really setting the vision, and then you're also ensuring that it's executed. So all the way through to construction and public use, you're really taking each phase of the project into consideration, that you're managing and mitigating risks, being realistic, and just checking progress against those goals.
All right, so now I kind of want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about something that's very important to us here at EMI. I want to talk about being a mentor and a leader. So my question is, how do you encourage more women specifically to pursue careers in the STEAM fields? And for everybody out there that's watching this video here, that's science, technology, engineering, art, and also math as well, right? Particularly in engineering, how do you encourage more women to pursue these careers?
That's a great question. So to start this off, I'm going to share a little secret. If I was not an engineer, I would be a graphic designer. So I love the intermixing of the logic and problem solving of engineering with the ability to be creative and add that special spark to things to make it unique. My biggest advice in relation to being a mentor and leader and encouraging women to pursue careers is to lead by example. Like, women that are in leadership roles are front and center on what the future holds for these young women that have no idea what they want to do when they grow up. So showing them that you can be, or that you are, not that you can be, that you literally are a working mom who is successful in her career and volunteers and does these things and also has time to do things for herself, it is very important for the future. Some ways that I utilize to be an active mentor and leader is advocating for myself and others, initiating those changes in policies and culture, perspective and bias, so that the young women that are following me don't have to go through those difficult conversations, that those policies are already in place. And then just inspiring the younger generations. And there's many, many ways that you can do that. You can mentor in like formal programs. When you're volunteering at your child's school, you can share some of your career goals. There's many different ways to show the younger generations what the future could hold for them. And then another thing that I think that I would like to note on here is that mentorship goes both ways. So I never fail to get surprised of when I am speaking to even a middle school girl, that they teach me something new about how they are using different software programs, or they tell me about this new activity that they have in school that can be interrelated into our industry and leadership that is really building the future for us. There are so many different opportunities available, both in school and extracurricular, to young women that were not available, that really makes me excited for what the future is going to hold.
That's awesome. And to your point about being a graphic designer in your spare time, I'm also like one of the those, I guess, left brain and right brain people. Mm-hmm. Not in graphic design per se. I mean, I kind of get my way around with Canva and PowerPoint sometimes, but I actually do drawing and painting as well on the side. In fact, awesome. Right now I'm actually working on a huge piece for one of my friends. It's like the largest painting I've ever started working on. It's a 3-foot by 4-foot piece.
Wow.
And he's going to hang it up in his home. So I'm really excited to get that out there. It's been a while since I've been, into the painting space for a while, but I don't know. I just threw it out there for a second because it's not oftentimes that you will actually find an engineer that can actually do the best of both worlds and have that artistic side as well. And I think that it really adds to the creativity that we have. And when it relates to project management, it kind of helps us a lot more as well, because we're able to deduce and coming up with different solutions that others may not have actually been able to come up with. So I find that to be very, very interesting. Yeah.
I am going to build on that. And I feel like as an engineer, you get asked a question and you expect a single response, where from the creative perspective, rather than end the conversation there, have someone prompt you, say, and then, so you're constantly building on it and your ideas get more and more crazy, but it gives it helps your brain, for those who don't think with both sides, to understand that there is more things that you can consider that weren't there when you initially started that conversation, and can really develop an even more complete and creative and better package at that end result.
That's awesome. So now that actually makes me curious about another question that I have for you now. It's about responsibilities. Like I am also a husband and a father. I have 3 little kids, all below the age of 7. And oftentimes the responsibilities, time management that is required with that, especially in a world now where a lot of us are working remote, especially in engineering, that gives rise to the question of how you manage those responsibilities at home, especially with your involvement in the community, in the graphic design, in engineering, with such complex projects like the ones that you are currently involved in. So can you share a success story from your mentoring efforts, and how all of that kind of ties in together, how you are able to blend all of these different roles and hats that you wear together, and how you do it so well?
I will admit that I do not always do it so well, but I show myself grace. So some of the, I will call them habits that I've gotten into, first and foremost is prioritizing yourself and your health and then your family, because if you're not your best person, then you can't give anyone your best person. You're not giving, you owe that to yourself, you owe that to your family, you owe that to your friends, you owe that to your work or your career. How I attempt to balance things, I have an integrated calendar, so it has both my personal and professional stuff on it, and I try to prioritize. So, for example, I was scheduled to go to a conference Monday through Friday for work, and my daughter's gymnastics show at the end of the year was scheduled for Monday night. So my priorities set my family high that I postponed one day of going to that conference in order to see the gymnastics show. And then I was just able to catch up on the conference material that I missed in the remaining 3 days. Counter to that, I also think it's important that my family understands that my career is important to me. So recently we had Take Your Kids to Work Day, and I brought my daughter with me, and I showed her the different things that I do. So she understands that when I do have a conflict that I can't move, like a deadline, so I can't take her to her swim lessons, that she understands that what I'm doing is important, that I have these clients that I'm trying to deliver a project to, or that she gets to see I've taken her to my construction sites that are finished and showed her, Mommy helped design this. Like, she worked on this. She is contributing to the region as a whole. So she really understands that going forward that she can do that, and that Mommy's not trying to pick or choose things. It's we're doing things that we're prioritizing, and life's not perfect. I always say that I embrace an organized chaos, that my imperfections are perfect for me, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think that that's a really good explanation there. And I have currently been thinking the same exact thing, that there definitely has to be a balance in between yourself and your responsibilities, what you love to do, and also your children as well, your spouse. If any of the viewers are engaged, married, or whatever it may be, like, there has to be a balance that's achieved, where your other parties, whatever those may be, understand that there has to be a boundary that's set and respected.
Right.
And I think that open communication really helps, because it helps with any problems that you might have with your spouse, as far as them not really understanding what it is that you're doing, and also for your children as well, because a lot of children, if you tell them enough times, they can actually understand what it is that you're saying and where it is that you're coming from. Like,
right.
Because I've actually had this occur a couple of times. Like, Dad, why can't you take me to the playground? Well, I am at work right now, and you know that I work between the hours of 8 to 5. So after 5 o'clock, then you can come talk to me. But during this time, I cannot bend the rules, because this is what helps for you to go to this playground, because this is how we're living here. So I want to go into my next question here, and we're almost done here. But I wanted to ask you about a success story from your mentoring efforts, and also your involvement with the Women's Transportation Seminar, and what particularly stands out to you from that seminar that you've attended. And also, I've seen a lot about WTS. Could you tell us more about it and how people can get involved in it as well, so we can continue to grow that organization? Because I've seen it so many times on LinkedIn now.
Great. So WTS stands for Women's Transportation Seminar. It is a national organization that was set up in the 70s when women were in the workforce but were not allowed to attend conferences. So they created this organization and hosted seminars because women were allowed to go to workshops and seminars. And from that initial group of women, all these different chapters have formed. I am the immediate past president of the WTS Philadelphia chapter. And what I love about the organization as a whole is that it has the mission and vision of advancing women and minorities in transportation. So you don't have to be a woman to join. You just need to believe in that mission of supporting women and minorities. I would say that my most memorable success story from WTS, similar to my career, as when I was out of college, I went to a mentorship mixer that introduced me to this organization. And it's just so welcoming and supportive and provides these resources that are both technical as well as developmental in all the different modes of transportation and all the different types of careers at all different levels. You have entry level, which I was at that point, and high level executives. So these powerful people that are running transit agencies across the nation. And it brings them under this common goal to advance women and minorities in transportation. The biggest success is I have been involved for approximately 20 years now, and seeing the students from the beginning that are in like our Transportation U program, which mentors middle and high school women transitioning to the workforce and getting jobs in transportation. Like their exposure to these programs that help them decide, oh, I would like to do this, that I love the engineering perspective, or I want to operate these types of vehicles, or I could do marketing content for an architecture and engineering firm. All these different things were built by someone coming and sharing their story and participating in these types of events.
Right.
I love that the women that are leaders in these organizations wear all different types of, I guess the typical saying is many different hats. I'm going to say many different shoes. So you have a support network that can wear high heels to those business meetings. They have their work boots on for their site visits, their flats on when they're running between the soccer games, all different things that not many people can relate to because they're not doing those things all at once like we are.
Wow, I think that's awesome. That's great and it's inspiring. And I would really encourage anybody that is watching to get involved, like male or woman. Please get involved, but especially the women. Like there are organizations that are out there that will provide opportunities for you where you can meet people like Erica that are going to help you through your matriculation, through college, through internships, and then also with landing a job as well afterwards, because that's the ultimate goal. Yes?
Yes.
So that's awesome. So we are going to take a short break here. And then when we get back, we're actually going to put Erica in the PM Pitfalls hot seat. And she's going to give us her biggest PM pitfalls that she's experienced throughout her career. Stay tuned. All right, everybody. Now it's time for our PM Pitfalls segment of the week with Erica Antoine. So, Erica, we're going to ask you a question here about your biggest PM pitfalls that you've identified within your career. And we want to ask you what you would recommend for any of those PMs or aspiring PMs that are out there, how they can overcome those PM pitfalls, what they are in the first place, and also how they can avoid those pitfalls as well.
Great. In my opinion, the greatest project management pitfall would be the inability to be flexible and recognize what the pivotal points are in a project. Many times the expectation is that things should happen linearly, and that is not the case. There are so many different branches of how to progress things that there's not a direct answer to get from point A to point B, and you need to have the emotional intelligence and the technical expertise to be able to flex yourself. So understanding what the decisions are, what information you have that day, and what the decisions are going forward, and then moving. A lot of times project managers will freeze when they come to a conflict or an issue. Just the ability to understand that you're making a decision and moving forward, and that you can pivot from there to keep the progress. It's more important to keep going than to freeze, because you're setting up obstacles for yourself, and it's just not you don't want to go down that path.
Please.
The other thing to note is setting those goals and measuring the progress, because that'll ensure that you have that flexibility that, okay, I'm still on target. We have this little path that we're going over to the right, but I'll be back on track in a day or so.
Yeah. I think that's great. Couple of things that I just got from that. For one, we had an interview with a person maybe a couple of weeks ago, and he was actually not in the AEC industry, but he was, I believed in like product management or something with AI and machine learning. And he had actually read a book on concurrent engineering. And it wasn't actually a term that I was actually familiar with, but I think that it kind of aligns with your point. Risk management, basically, which is for us in the AEC field, the way that we can relate that concurrent engineering to it is basically by accounting for everything that could possibly go wrong within your projects and coming up with a plan for all of those different scenarios.
Yes.
And then I also think that goes along with your other point as well, with veering off to a certain in a certain direction and then possibly getting back on that critical path within a day or so. I mean, like, that's what we've studied the critical path for,
Yes.
in engineering classes, so that even though we get siphoned off onto a different path, we can still come back and not actually delay that project. So I think that that's very good that you've actually mentioned those things there.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Good. So, well, we appreciate you, Erica, for being on the podcast with us today. Is there any way that we could connect with you some more on maybe LinkedIn so people can maybe follow you? And also any books that you would recommend anybody read, or any other tips or pieces of advice that you would like to give any of the listeners today?
Sure. So yes, I am available on LinkedIn for anyone that would like to connect. And then if I had to recommend my favorite project management or leadership book, it would be First, Break All the Rules. I think that many a times in our industry, we are very logical and follow rules, but I think that one of the uniqueness is having the ability to understand that sometimes you need to break them. And that book really goes through and highlights the importance of seeing that picture and understanding how to proceed in that manner.
I think that's awesome. So thank you once again for being on the podcast with us. Take care.
You too.
All right, everyone. Please remember that you can find the show notes for this episode at www.engineeringpmpodcast.com. And there you'll find a summary of all of the key points that we discussed in today's episode, as well as any of the links to any of the resources, the websites, the books, or anything else that we mentioned in today's episode. So until next time, I wish you all the very, very best in all of your project management endeavors. Take care.